I grew up in a royal family of the Amavuso clan, Amabele, in the watch of Chief Kobinamba Mavuso, the father to the now Chief Langa Mavuso. My mother was royalty, and my grandmother from my father's side always told me many stories, which some culminated with the idea that I was royalty, and only to find out later that only my mother was. And I thought to myself, my grandmother deceived me. But I knew she was preparing me for the unjust and unfair society. When my mother passed away, we had to go to my father's house to stay with. So I grew up in a farm, a village that looked like a farm. It was a people's farm, an African farm, a place where both my father and my late mother were born. Kwakufuyiwe, kulinywa, kungqushwa, sisenga, sisitya nomphothulu. In other words, we practiced farming. The farm gave our elder brothers an opportunity to rear up their own livestock one day. When cows and goats came down at sunset, oh, I loved watching the herders chasing the billowy cows down the slopey hills towards the farm kraal, observing the anxious calves awaiting the possible arrival of their mothers. Oh, was a sight to behold, as we would sing, "Wesontombi ndithethele mama, wesontombi ndaliwe ngamasedokwe," a song that we never understood what it meant, but we sang it anyway. In the late 90s and early 2000s, my sister and I and some cousins of ours went to Port Elizabeth, Qeqe Park, Tulbagh for the very first time in our lives, only for Christmas and New Year holidays. It was in one Saturday morning when we were taking a walk in the streets of Qeqe Park, when about 4 security vehicles flocked and surrounded us and asked, "What the hell do you want in a white man's area?" And exactly after that, I thought of my grandmother. And I said to myself, that is why she called me a king to be. She was preparing me for this. And I had discovered also that we were the first and only black family that resided in Qeqe Park in those days. And from that day on, I said to myself, I want to tell stories. My life would be to tell stories. Once or twice in a while, under the watchful eye of my grandmother, Umakhuluno Wins, me and my cousins again would converge at the farm for the Easter holidays this time. Then count yourself lucky if you manage to eat a full apple alone, which was really rare though. She would make sure that everyone gets a fair share. She would cut each apple into a half, and then create 2 halves from the original half. And I would complain, "But Grandma, in my mother's house I would have received a full apple, just like Uncle did." I protested. "Chili, more fish. When did you come out from the tin?" My grandmother objected. Later in my life, I learned that she was economizing. She still does. But above all, this amazing woman was in fact prudent, cleverly preventing us from being selfish, teaching us to share with others around us the little that we have. A life lesson of Ubuntu. When Easter approached, there was a revolutionary baking of cakes at home, in the farm kitchen. Us boys, we were not allowed in the kitchen, so we would squat below the kitchen window pail and salivate, feasting on the hot cakes. That aroma. It was an opportunity to teach girls an additional household chore, and we would sing a song about the raisins, hoping that the girls inside the kitchen would hear us and steal some for us, as we would sing again, "Maranjenjes, Maranjenjes, 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 hey, hey." I am proud to say to you, this is my story, my African life story.